Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rear view mirror. About to be working towards the weekend about an hour from right now. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Jordan Kitchens and Braxton Rizzuto back there on the ones and twos. Fired up you were here with us. I got a lot to cover over the course of the next 2 hours. ESPN came out with their ACC preview. Just want to get just a thumbnail on Clemson here. We're not going to dive too deep into the weeds, but a thumbnail on Clemson according to the numbers. Bill Connolly put that piece together. It is What If Wednesday. Always appreciate your interaction on What If Wednesday. Hit me up on Twitter at HuntPalmer88, or you can text into the show at 225-499-1045. LSU basketball has got some games on the schedule that we'll get to. Big news out of Atlanta, which impacts the Saints more ways than one. Drake London is locked up. The Saints will be opposing him for the foreseeable future. And what does that mean for Chris Olave? We'll chat about it at 2 o'clock. Nick Saban testified on Capitol Hill today. That's of note. The baseball portal still up and running. We'll get to it 90 minutes from right now. So plenty to do. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Well, the Saints were back at it today, literally right this very second. They're back at it in organized team activities, OTAs here in the summer. Obviously not a mandatory, but encouraged get-together of the black and gold. And it'll go on for a couple of weeks, started things up last week. And Kellen Moore met with the media today. We don't have that sound because it just happened, but I can tell you what happened is the media said, hey, Alvin Kamara's here, so what's up with that? And Kellen Moore kind of looked surprised. He was like, well, generally speaking, this is not a time of year where he's here, but we're thrilled to have him. And I took that answer in, and I went, okay. He's telling the truth. Like, Alvin Kamara oftentimes is not in New Orleans this time of year. He does do a lot of training off-site away from New Orleans. That's not new. Alvin Kamara has been here for a decade. But the way that Kellen Moore answered the question was interesting to me. And y'all know me, I'm not huge on press conference answers, but this one did pique my interest. And I started to kind of parse through, like, why is Kellen Moore's answer so odd about Alvin Kamara? It was not oh, yeah, Alvin's here, and we knew he was coming. We talked to him last week, and we wanted to get him into this or that, and we're thrilled that he was able to come down and join us. It was not that. It was like, yeah, he's usually not here, but we're kind of thrilled to have him. Like they didn't even know he was going to be there, is what vibe that gave off. We'll hear the Saints beat writers talk to Alvin at some point. We'll get more color on this story at some point. But right now, here's my take on the Alvin Kamara Saints situation. There is no reason at all for this to be weird. And it is weird, so something is weird. And I have to go to the most obvious answer. And I'll put it together this way. The Saints last year signed Alvin Kamara to an extension. And then they played the season out, got into the offseason, looked at their running back room, traded for a perennial 1,000-yard rusher. Sorry, not traded. Signed in free agency a perennial 1,000-yard rusher. And looked at the running back room and went, we have too many dollars in Alvin Kamara. So we're going to do one of two things. He's going to take a pay cut or we're going to cut him. And they put that in the contract. They manipulated the money that way to make for a clean exit if they cannot agree to a pay cut. And what did Alvin Kamara do? Well, he kind of sat in the dark and he went, I don't want to play for anybody else, and they hadn't given me a pay cut yet. I really would like to play for the Saints this year for my full value of my contract. I'm just going to show up to OTAs like I never do and kind of put a little heat on them that way. So here I am. Like, that's what it looks like to me. There would be no reason for the weird contract restructure. There would be no reason for Kellen Moore's sheepish answer today. There would be no reason for Mickey Loomis's kind of cloudy answers when asked about Alvin in the offseason. This is a guy who's been a pillar of your franchise for a decade, who you signed to an extension last year, who was part of the team last year, is still part of the roster, and the answers about him are odd. So I believe at this point, as we sit here on June the 3rd, that there is virtually no chance Alvin Kamara plays for the Saints at his full contract value this fall. Virtually none, based on what they are telling you, the way they are saying it, the phrasing of their answers, the tone of their voices. I think there's a reasonable chance, I'm not willing to put a percentage on it, but a reasonable chance that Alvin Kamara takes a pay cut. If he wants to do that and wants to play for New Orleans, okay. And I don't have any reason to believe that Alvin Kamara is the guy who would go to the table and bang his fist and just walk away from it. Because this is a guy in his last contract negotiation just a year ago who was playing banged up, not holding out of practice, not holding out of training camp, showing up for work, playing through broken ribs, like doing all the things right, and then always saying the right thing. Like, yeah, man, I want to be here. If they decide I'm moving on somewhere else, I'm going to be sipping pina coladas on the beach. I want to play for the Saints. I'd like my fair market value. Let's go. And he finally got it. But all the while I was saying I would not give Alvin Kamara this extension, it's too much money for a guy in that part of his career where the franchise is. The franchise was in a terrible spot in terms of the salary cap, in terms of the roster construction. It was in a bad spot when they inked that deal. It was a bad time to pay an aging running back significant money, in my opinion. I said that at the time. I will say that now. But they did it. And Alvin Kamara, the whole time, while I was suggesting that's a bad contract, handled himself beautifully. And so I have no reason to believe he will handle himself poorly in this situation. And I think it'll come to one of two scenarios. Alvin, here's your number right now. We got to drive it down to this. Do you want to play? And Alvin Kamara will either look at him and go, absolutely, sign me up. Wish I could get the full money, but I want to play for the Saints. Think we got a good team. Like the guys around here, let's go. Or he'll say, you signed me to that contract. You're going to pay me that contract. And they'll say, we're not, cut. And that's a hard thing, I think, for a lot of Saints fans to compartmentalize. But I am left now at this point with very little else to draw in terms of conclusions. Alvin Kamara showed up today to show he wants to be part of the Saints. He was under zero obligation to be at practice at OTAs today. None. And I believe he did that to show, hey, I'd like to be here. And that's probably got to get the Saints brass going, well, he kind of wants to play. And I know that Achen's going to be our guy, and we feel pretty good about some of the other guys that we've brought in, some of the pieces of this puzzle. And so we're going to go ahead and let him come to training camp, and we'll see how this thing shakes out. And if he wants to take a pay cut, we'll keep him around. If we don't think that's worth it, we're going to cut bait. We'll take the dead money, and he'll go to drink Mai Tais, pina coladas, whatever tropical drink Alvin Kamara would enjoy. But this was a weird circumstance today when Kellen Moore was asked that question. And you can suggest, maybe fairly, that I'm reading too much into it. But when I stack all this evidence on the other side about how transparent Alvin Kamara has been the entire time, about how good the relationship has been between Alvin Kamara and the Saints the entire time, about how productive this guy has been, how professional he's been, how he's a pillar in the community, how he just got signed to a new extension, all these very crystal clear things that lay out why he would be a piece to next year's puzzle. And then you take all of that positive and you juxtapose it with these press conference answers and then the contractual language that was altered that would suggest they can have an off-ramp. They're looking for the off-ramp. They are looking for the off-ramp. And it's just a matter of, do they take it now? Do they wait until training camp? Or does Alvin Kamara come down significantly on his money and move forward playing for this team for a pay cut? And I don't know what happens. If you pin me down right now and say, Hunt, I need an answer right now, I think Alvin Kamara gets cut. Like, I don't know that. I've given you everything I know. These are my feelings. I'm connecting dots. But the caginess of these answers, to me, is suggestive. And I'll go ahead and take the bait. And if we get here on week 1 and we've gone through a training camp and Alvin Kamara did take a haircut financially or none of this stuff happened, I'll go, yeah, I read the situation wrong. But I'm here for an opinion. I'm here to connect dots. I'm here to look at what we're looking at, all these facts. And to me, it appears that Alvin Kamara is on his way out in New Orleans. That's just the way I see it. I don't think he wants that. In fact, it's pretty obvious he doesn't want that. But I think the Saints have essentially made up their mind. That's my take on the situation from 30,000 feet. Jordan, you're looking at this too. I mean, maybe I'm off, but it feels weird.
No, you're not off. It's definitely weird. It's more weird that he showed up today because this is something he's never done.
Yeah.
It would have been different if, every other year he does it. He never shows up to OTA. So this was kind of like he's putting that pressure on him. That's what it really feels like. It's like, hey, man, I'm here. Let's get to work. And it kind of shocked everybody. Like, what is, it's like that guy you're talking about. And then he steps into the room and everybody gets quiet. Like, oh, what is this guy
Oh, he
doing?
is here.
Yeah, he is here. So it's weird. I hate that this is what it's come to at this point for somebody that I feel like has put so much into the Saints, into the city, and especially, I feel like the team has done that as well, but it's gotten to a point where something has to happen. It's too much chatter around this now. It's getting a little too big. It's starting to step outside of the little bubble. So something has to happen. The straw's going to have to break the camel's back, no matter way. So we're going to see how it plays out.
Yes or no, he's on the team week 1.
The way it's trending, I want to say no, but in my heart, I want to say yes, but I'm going to say no.
We'll see. That's the thing, and we've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about it with college sports too. Our heart doesn't care about the business
At all.
And the business is what runs the sport. And those two things sometimes don't match, and that's when it hurts. That's when it absolutely hurts. So we'll see what the future is for Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, but he's there now. He'll be out on the practice field today. We'll hear some and certainly get a full report coming up on it tomorrow. Not the only Saints news today. Also news out of Atlanta. Drake London with an extension. What does that mean for Chris Olave? We'll talk about it a little bit later on. We're chugging along here. Off to a good start on this Wednesday, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. We'll come back, talk some college football next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing. LifetimeRoofingLA.com is the website. LifetimeRoofingLA.com is that website. Remember, not just roofs. Also, professional installation of gutters, siding, windows. If you're trying to beautify, fortify, just update the exterior of your home, Lifetime Roofing can do all of that. Let them come out and do an inspection of your roof. If they find that it's in good shape, they'll let you know. If they think there needs to be a tune-up to get you ready for storm season, they can do that. Maybe you need a new roof. They can do that as well. If that's the case and you need financing, 0% for 18 months. If you qualify it through the folks at Lifetime Roofing. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com. You can trust Lifetime Roofing, a Baton Rouge-based business, born and raised in South Louisiana, a growing team, a gorgeous facility on College Drive, and a roofer, again, you can trust. It's Lifetime Roofing. Find them online, lifetimeroofingla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Let me tell you about my good friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're built by Renaissance.com, built by Renaissance.com. It is the summertime. It is hot. It is great to get in that backyard swimming pool. If you've always thought about getting one, now may be the time. And I'll give you Joey Blanchard's direct cell phone number to send him a text. It's 225-252-7745. Send Joey a text, say, hey, I want a pool, call me. He'll call you. And you have a conversation right then and there with the owner of the company. He's there for the consultation. He's there for the design work. Their software is incredible. You can design it to scale, whether you've got an exact idea of what you're looking for or you just want to start from scratch and figure out through the process what you want. They can do it at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Outdoor kitchen, they got it. Joey's there every step of the way. When they dig that pool, when they pour that pool, finish that pool, deal with that outdoor kitchen, you'll deal with the owner, start to finish. Joey's done it for dozens and dozens and dozens of Baton Rouge area residents. He can do it for you. 225-252-7745 is his number. You can find him online at builtbyrenaissance.com. Chugging along here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. What If Wednesday coming up next. You can get your questions in. What If, set Hunt Palmer 88 on Twitter. But I was reading through ESPN.com today, and obviously this is the time of year where a lot of off-season content is fired off, and Bill Connolly deals with the numbers. He deals in objective data and does that as well as anybody in the game, and did it for the ACC today. And, of course, LSU opens the season with Clemson, and I want to just kind of get a peek for it. Yesterday, we went into the fact that LSU had 7 of the top 100 newcomers in college football in 2026, and Clemson didn't have any. And then it was like, well, let's go look at what the numbers say they return. And keep in mind, Clemson was a 7-6 football team last year. They went 4-4 in the ACC. Bill Connolly in the S&P Plus ranked them 34th in the country to finish. They were 65th in offense and 24th in defense. They finished 41st in special teams, but offense just was not great, and the defense was improved, but certainly not elite. So you look at the continuity table where they look at returning production. And Clemson in the ACC ranks 12th in returning production. Keep in mind, I told you yesterday, they do not have a single top 100 newcomer, according to ESPN.com. Again, I'm not naive enough to think that means they don't have any good players coming in. I'm sure they've evaluated some guys, and they'll have some contributions coming from freshmen and the transfers they got. They brought in 10 this year. But there weren't high-profile guys that are significantly proven at the power level. They didn't bring in guys like LSU did. Well, they don't have that returning production either. That doesn't mean they don't have returning good players, but they don't have returning production. You look at them in the ACC, they return 53% of their production objectively. On offense, that's 46%. On defense, that's 61%. They've got 111 returning starts coming back. That is a small number compared to a lot of teams in the ACC. Just for perspective, like Notre Dame brings back 191 starts. That's 81 more. Virginia Tech, SMU, Syracuse, Stanford, Virginia, Pittsburgh, Cal, all have more returning production starts. So does Miami. So does Wake Forest than Clemson. You look at Clemson when it comes to returning starts from guys on their roster, 26. So it is a small number that Clemson is bringing back, and they're 60th in the country in returning production. When I look at these numbers, and I look at the win projection for Clemson by Bill Connolly, which is 7.9 for the season, he thinks this is an 8-win football team. And that's just not what any of us would have thought when you put this game on the schedule. Now, if you told me that LSU was an 8-win team as of November of last year when they had fired their coach and that massive transfer class that had come in was going to leave, I'd be like, okay, I kind of get that. But LSU went out and got a new coach and then went out and got a ton of new transfers. And Clemson just has the same coach, and they're running it back with a defensive coordinator, and they now go get a Chad Morris who, according to Bill Connolly, hasn't called a really good offense since 2017. Like, it's a program that feels like it's living in the Stone Ages. That's relatively speaking. But yesterday was a subjective list of 100 best newcomers ranked 1 to 100. This is objective data, and Clemson is the biggest prisoner to this data of returning production because they're the ones who don't go out and refill it. Ole Miss is going to go out and refill it. Indiana is going to go out and refill it. A&M is going to go out and refill it. So is Texas. Clemson just recruits the high school kids and brings them on up. And, Bill Connolly wrote about that in this piece where he's got Miami up there toward the top of the league. He's got Notre Dame at the top of the league. And then he's got Clemson coming in third. And he projects them to be a 5-3 ACC team. And he says that last year he was, for all intents and purposes, the main Clemson skeptic. He was concerned they didn't have enough big plays on offense. They allowed too many big plays on defense, and turnovers really boosted them into the playoff. Y'all remember 2 years ago they made the playoff. They went to Texas in the first round, and he said they really benefited from turnovers that year, which is not a really sustainable metric. And Clemson did bomb. They went from preseason number 4 to 7-6. And Connolly writes, I was still mostly wrong about them. I thought they would be a top 15 team and an ACC favorite, but they were shockingly poor. The offense got hurt, especially at receiver and offensive line. And now Dabo Swinney is dealing with one of the biggest resets of his career. Keep that in mind. When you're an LSU fan, they're coming in here. Bill Connolly is looking at the data. He's saying this is one of the biggest resets of Dabo Swinney's career. And he says that Swinney is simultaneously embracing and resisting progress. On one hand, he dipped into the portal. He got 10 transfers. It's well below the national average, but they got some of them. But he made a regressive hire on offense, as Connolly writes. Chad Morris is back in town. He helped modernize Clemson's attack from 2011 to 2014. But as Connolly writes, hasn't been at the helm of even a decent offense since 2017. He's building his offense around junior Chris Vizina, a 2-year backup who was okay in last year's start. Now, they got a SMU transfer and Chris Johnson at running back. They got Bryant Wesco back, who was hurt most of last year at receiver. TJ Moore is back as well. But they don't have Blake Miller on the offensive line. And the defense has been less than the sum of its parts for a while. I'm reading what he has to say. Honestly, a reset probably isn't the worst thing after the disappointment of 2025. While Clemson is projected just 23rd overall with an average projection win of 7.9, not exactly rampant optimism, the Tigers are projected second in the league and have a chance at a 5-2 start or better with 5 of their first 7 games coming at home. Here's what I'm taking from cursory and surface level Clemson reading in May and June. Nobody thinks this team's very good. That's not me talking. I'm not giving you my opinion on Clemson. I'm telling you when I read, when I listen, when I look at national folks who are locked on college football the entire year. We transition over to basketball. We transition over to baseball. We take a look at some other things. But there are some guys in this business that are college football all day, every day. That group of people doesn't think much of Clemson at all. We saw postseason polls come out for the next season that did not have Clemson ranked. We're seeing objective data that suggests they have minimal amount of returning production. We know that out of the transfer portal, they weren't incredibly active. We know that that subjectively, they don't have massively impactful players coming into the portal. There's just not a lot to cling to and love about what Clemson's doing. Last year was the year they had all those draft picks. Last year was the year they had the returning quarterback. Last year was the year they were coming off of the playoff berth. Now, they lost a bunch of draft picks. They didn't go out and replace them in the portal. They were a 7-win team last year. Bill Connolly projects them as an 8-win team this year. Like, this is going to be the biggest season over in Tiger Stadium in maybe my life. Like, I can't remember a season opener that we build like this. And it's not just Clemson's helmet running out of the south end zone tunnel that gives those vibes. It's Lane Kiffin. It's Sam Leavitt. It's the dawn of a new era. It's coming back from a disappointing year last year. It's the hope springing eternal. And it's also the college game days here and the Clemson's on the other sideline, and so is Dabo Swinney and all those things. But as far as the opponent is concerned, it might be a little bit overhyped. It's not overhyped literally because of all those other things. But if you just look at the X's and O's and you look at the point spread and you look at what people think about Clemson, it's not super glowing. Now, that doesn't mean LSU in the first year, in the first game under a new coach, can't go out there and lay an egg. Your offensive line's not ready to go. Your quarterback's not completely healthy. Your offense is not in sync because it's a new quarterback and a new system, and he didn't practice in the spring. Like, there are plenty of factors that can bring Clemson up into this game. But I'm just telling you right now, like, it feels like when we get to the first weekend in September, when we get to the last weekend in August, and people are talking about this game and breaking down this game, I'd be surprised if I saw anybody outside the Palmetto State taking Clemson to win this game. There's just the data and the opinions that are shaped by the data would suggest this Clemson team is just not a great team. I didn't say a bad team. I didn't say terrible. Just not a great team. And when we think about Clemson, we think about Dabo Swinney, we think about that orange helmet and the white paw print and all that goes into that because of what's happened over the last decade, we think of an elite team. We think of an elite program. We think of a great team. It doesn't feel like that right now. That's not the end of the world to me. I just want to win the game. But that's the feeling you get when you read up and you listen to opinions on this Clemson team. And certainly Bill Connolly's is of a team that is 12th in the ACC, not the country, in the ACC in returning production off a 7-6 team that didn't add a ton out of the portal. Not a great recipe. Just a thumbnail there on the Clemson Tigers. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Take a time out. What If Wednesday is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power, GoTrosOnline.com. That's GoTrosOnline.com. Been in business 22 years. Baton Rouge and Gonzales are the two locations. You can't miss the Baton Rouge location of GoTro's Outdoor Power. You drive by on Airline, you see that mountain of orange inventory. That is GoTro's Outdoor Power, and it is a great time to get on by. It is certainly grass cutting season down here in South Louisiana. It's raining. It's hot. That grass is growing like crazy. If you've got a property you've got to manage, you need a zero-turn mower for that property, you need GoTro's Outdoor Power. They've got the largest Hustler inventory in the state. They've got the largest parts inventory in the state. They were the National Hustler Deal of the Year the last 3 years. So just because I said family-owned and operated by the GoTro family doesn't mean small. How about that customer service? You need a trailer to deliver that piece of machinery to you, they can do it. You need a truck to bring you that part, they can do it. It's GoTro's Outdoor Power. Check them out at Airline Highway or in Gonzales. And, of course, online at GoTrosOnline.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Love telling my friends at Marucci. Go by and take a tour of Marucci. What a cool spot we've got here in Baton Rouge. Started up in a backyard shed. I've told you many times now. Two former MLBers and their trainer are like, let's link a bat. And they made a bat, and it was a pretty good bat. So they made some more bats, and they let people swing the bats, and the people that were swinging the bats go, these bats are pretty good. All of a sudden, you fast forward 20 years, and they become the official bat of Major League Baseball. It's an amazing story, and you can learn that story. You can also see where they make those bats because they make them right here in Baton Rouge. Shave them down, stain them, ship them off. Best players in the world have them in short order. You can see that, and it's right here in Baton Rouge. Also, you can become a member at Marucci. If you've got a youth baseball or softball player that wants to take some hacks all summer long, become a member. You get key card access to those cages as well as the pitcher's mounds 24/7, 365. It's all there at Marucci. Find them online, maruccisports.com/campus tour. If you're looking for those campus tour tickets. Tons to do here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I want to talk about LSU's scheduling in basketball coming up. John Rothstein had a tweet a little bit earlier on that discussed one plan that LSU has moving forward. And big news out of the NFC South with Drake London signing a big deal. We'll talk about Chris Olave at 2 o'clock. Nick Saban was on Capitol Hill today, so we've got to discuss that as well. The baseball transfer portal is rolling. One of LSU's potential targets decided to commit to Texas today. We'll do a little bit of that in hour number 2. But right now, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, so what if Will Wade's assembled team is deemed ineligible?
I mean, I can't rule that out, right?
No, you definitely can't.
It feels unlikely because the NCAA hardly rules anybody ineligible.
Yep.
RJ Lewis feels like he's pushing it big time. I think Yam Madar feels like he's pushing it big time. The rest of the guys, they feel like they've got a pretty decent handle, and that would give LSU 8 right there. I think he was always planning on filling out the roster with some other players. I don't know if players are deemed ineligible, if Lewis is ineligible, if Madar is ineligible. The money that they were planning on spending on those guys, I don't know if they have to spend it on them or if they get it back. That's contractual, I would imagine. You would have to go fill the roster out, but he always said they were going to pay 8 or 9 guys and then they were going to fill the rest of the roster out as such. So it would be less than ideal if 3 or 4 of them were ineligible. Obviously, it's not my millions of dollars that he's spending. So to me, it's like, well, it's year one and it's weak portal crop and they didn't quite get it done. I wouldn't love that, but it's not like expectations are through the roof at this point with men's basketball around here. So if they had 3 guys become ineligible, they would be worse. Oof. They would still have some decent players and they would still, I think, put up a fight. But you gotta fill out the roster. He's still got to get 4 or 5 more guys at this point. And I don't know where they're coming from. I'm not suggesting he can't do it. That would be ridiculous to suggest, but it's certainly a possibility that LSU is without 3 or 4 of those guys.
That would be crazy. All right, so what if limited NIL funding for baseball played a bigger role in the lack of quality portal additions than previously thought? Do we expect it to get this fixed this offseason?
I do. I've had some conversations.
Okay.
And based on what I've been told, last year LSU was short on the rev share. And that's just cash to hand out. The NIL has to be cleared by the clearinghouse, and maybe you can't promise as much up front. I'm not here to cry poor for LSU baseball last year in the portal. I am here to tell you there were some players that LSU felt really good about getting that did not come to LSU, and the thought was that money was a big issue. It was an issue with Tennessee. It was an issue with Texas. It was an issue with Mississippi State. LSU, there were some guys they thought they had. They didn't get them. So, yeah, I think that some changes have been made. Virgil Osbury sat in this studio and said that Jay Johnson was going to have more revenue-sharing funds available. They still have NIL. They still have a strong backbone of cash from LSU. I think they're in a better position. I think they're looking for different players in the portal this year. And I will tell you this. Based on the early entrance to the portal, I think the talent in the transfer portal is greater this year than it was last year. I think there's more depth at the top. So I think LSU is going to end up with some really good players out of the portal. But I can't – a lot of those conversations last year I'm not privy to as to what the dollars and cents looked like in Austin with Aiden Robinson as opposed to in Baton Rouge with Aiden Robbins. With Landon Mack in Knoxville as opposed to Landon Mack in Baton Rouge. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think LSU will do a good job in the portal this year.
All right, so what if you could fast forward to August 25th?
I probably can't do it.
Can't do it? Missing some holidays.
I'm really looking forward to Family Beach trip coming up. Yep. I'm looking forward to SEC Media Days. That's fun.
That's end of July?
It's in the middle towards the end of July.
Okay.
I'm looking forward. Like, obviously, got kids. You want to spend as much time with them as possible. Professionally, let's go. Like, professionally,
you're already in football
let's get
mode?
on with it. No, I'm in get rid of summer mode.
Okay.
Like, I think a lot of LSU fans are in this boat too. Like, I talked about LSU Clemson in the last segment. Like, I am excited about that. I think there are a lot of LSU fans that want to see what Jay Johnson does the next 3 weeks. And I'll watch the College World Series. I'm excited about that, and I'll talk about it a little bit, but that's not professionally. Yeah, I look very much forward to the end of August.
Okay.
Now the beginning of August 1st through August 10th is fun because it's 1,000 degrees,
yeah.
But we're out there. I get to see these guys in person, watch them do some things, and there's an adrenaline boost that goes with the first week of August. Everyone settles into school at that point, and like there's an adrenaline boost to that professionally. Professionally, I would go right now. Personally, we gotta take some summer vacation time.
Yeah.
Hit the lake on 4th of July.
4th of July,
kind of
thank
stuff.
you.
But professionally, yeah, I'm ready to roll.
I'm about to say I've been in football mode since, oh Lord, who knows how long.
Not me. I can't go that far.
Oh, like the way how Tyler Shuck ended the season, Hunt, I've been itching. I've been scratching, man.
He lost it into the season. Lost to the Falcons. Swept.
He did. And we're eating good off that. He did, but we can't say he did perform in that game. He did look good. Everybody else around him,
Not so
Ronnie
much.
Bell, Toure, Kevin Austin, sayonara. Don't want to see you ever again. So what if you could go to one super regional?
I tried to be creative, and I do think there's a lot of charm in Chapel Hill in North Carolina USC. I would enjoy that, going to see that stadium. I've never been to Chapel Hill. I would like to see that for sure. But it's Georgia, Mississippi State. I have been to Athens 4 times, maybe 5. I love Athens, Georgia. It is the best town in the SEC, bar none.
Whoa.
I love a college town. It is the best one in the league.
Really?
Bars, restaurants, the whole thing is just great. Downtown area is phenomenal.
Okay.
Love it. And that ballpark's nothing. It's not great. Okay. But that matchup's going to be unbelievable. And being in Athens, I would go there. You send me to Texas, Oregon, I'm thrilled. You send me to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, I'm thrilled. I'm not a big enough college baseball junkie where I want you to send me to Troy, Alabama to watch Troy and Little Rock play. I love college baseball. I love it, love it, love it. I don't need to go to that.
Okay.
And look, Kansas is going to have a hell of an environment for Kansas, Oklahoma, no doubt. But the dudes on the mound, the dudes at the plate, the small dimensions of the ballpark, the charm of Athens, give me Georgia, Mississippi State all day.
All right, so that's it for What If Wednesday.
That's it for What If Wednesday. Chugging along here, unless we got anybody in the Bayou Ford chat, had a little bit of a technical issue, but sounds like we're back up and running there. But that's it there for What If Wednesday. Appreciate y'all for participating. Had a few of those that chimed in via Twitter, so appreciate that as always every single week. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com. Builtbyrenaissance.com. You can send my guy Joey Blanchard a text message. That's all it takes to get the process started at 225-252-7745. Still plenty to do here on this Wednesday edition. We got a busy second hour coming at you. Drake London's contract is a big point of contention. Well, big topic of conversation, I should say, in Saints world. Nick Saban was on Capitol Hill today and testified. He gave an 11-minute opening statement that we're going to talk about. And I am back and forth on it, which is not surprising. That's kind of the way my personality rolls, but I'm back and forth on it. So we'll talk a little bit about Nick Saban's testifying. And then the baseball transfer portal is up and running. LSU had a visitor yesterday. I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net, which, by the way, just to go off on a little aside here, we launched a new website, LouisianaSports.net. Same content exactly, but new look there, so you can go check that out. It's brand new today. In fact, not quite 100% updated. We got some stories that'll be populated over the course of the day. So if you look at it and go, I think I've seen that story before, it's all uploading. It's just a 4-hour deal that was unavoidable for us on that front that is going to be reconciled by dinner today. But if you want to go check out LouisianaSports.net, looks brand new as of today, and we're really proud of it and the content that we put out and the way that site has grown. And certainly appreciate y'all for making that happen for us. But I wrote about the baseball transfer portal this morning. That'll be republished this afternoon as we have some information as some real targets for LSU, and we'll get into that at the bottom of hour number 2 in about 45 minutes. When we come back, LSU basketball. Got a little scheduling news. We'll discuss that and what it means for Will Wade's first team when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always appreciate our friends over at Auctioneer. You know, all May long they were telling you about Stroke Awareness Month. And in June, they're talking about their walk-in clinic at Elite. So whether you're an athlete or just trying to stay active, the Auctioneer Andrews Orthopedics Sports Medicine Institute can help you get moving and keep you moving. You got access to the highest level of specialized care, nationally renowned expertise, the latest equipment, modern facilities, including that walk-in clinic at Elite Training Complex on Burbank. If you need care fast, they can certainly help you. If you got a sprain, strain, minor dislocation, sports injuries, maybe just a sudden or ongoing spine-related musculoskeletal pain, they can help you over at Elite Training Complex. A walk-in visit is always welcome. You can learn more at auctioneer.org/brortho. That's auctioneer.org/brortho. All from our friends over at Auctioneer.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Closing up hour number 1, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Always brought to you by First American Bank and Trust. FABT.com is the website. Started up in 1910. 116 years later, they are still humming. 25 locations throughout southeast Louisiana. So there's always one near you down in Metairie, right here just outside of Baton Rouge, Dutchtown, Jones Creek, maybe up I-12, Tangipahoa, and St. Tammany Terraces. They got branches. So do they down the bayou, St. James, St. John's, Lafourche. Wherever you are, again, in southeast Louisiana, there's a First American Bank and Trust branch next to you. They just believe in being that community bank. And that comes with all the positives of knowing people when you walk in the door, of having folks make decisions based on your business, your personal loan, right here in Southeast Louisiana. That's First American Bank and Trust. But when I say commercial bank that's right here and local, I don't mean small. It's 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. They've got the resources to help you. You just know that the people making decisions on your loans are local. It means a lot. So if you're looking for a commercial loan, looking for a personal loan, looking for that personal touch you don't get from the national banks, First American Bank and Trust can help you without that. They're online at fabt.com. All right, John Rothstein with a tweet earlier today about 10 o'clock this morning said that LSU is going to play in the 2026 Acrisure Series in Palm Springs. This is a little different than your traditional local tournament, the one that LSU's played in Destin or that they played in Cancun, the Maui Invitational, Myrtle Beach. You know, all these tournaments that are played annually. This one is in Palm Springs, but it includes 28 teams. It's got pod systems. And so we don't have the schedule that LSU is going to play, but the teams that are in LSU's top two pods, where the high major teams are, you've got Southern Cal, you've got South Carolina, so both USCs. You've got Arizona State, Utah State, Grand Canyon, St. Louis, Stanford, and Colorado. The two that stand out to me are Southern Cal. They've got a solid program right now and have done a great job recruiting front court players the last couple of years. And then St. Louis has got a really good program as well. Josh Schertz is the head coach at St. Louis. He had a great run at Indiana State and was hired by St. Louis in 2024 and really did a great job the last couple of seasons. And a lot of teams were pursuing him in the coaching markets, and St. Louis signed him to a big extension, gave him a big paycheck, committed some money to it. Like, St. Louis loves their basketball, and Josh Schertz has built a really strong brand there in short time. So I'm hopeful that LSU runs into St. Louis, runs into Southern Cal in this tournament. We'll see what happens. I doubt they'll be put next to South Carolina. They try to avoid those things if at all possible with conference teams playing. I don't know a lot about Stanford or Colorado. I don't know a ton about Arizona State either. Grand Canyon, Utah State are generally pretty solid mid-major programs. So it's not the sexiest matchup that LSU could have pulled, but LSU's not in a position to do that right now. But I'll tell you this. From my time doing Hoops with Hunt, the podcast that I was doing during the Will Wade era, and understanding and listening to him do press conferences and covering him, everything he does from a scheduling perspective is done with purpose. It's done meticulously. And I know what Will Wade's going to do with his schedule. He's going to, one, schedule a lot of teams early in the season from lower level conferences that he expects to win a lot of games. Now, that was an easier thing to do when he got to LSU, and you could more accurately forecast the production teams had coming back. Now, really good mid-major teams are going to lose players to the portal. Their coaches are going to leave, and the players are going to follow, and then the roster gets gutted, and they're not as good as they were before. But Will Wade's got a group of analysts as a third party that he brings on as a consultant to put his schedule together. You're going to get low-major teams that win a lot of games. That's always a staple of what Will Wade does. He's also going to play a game every year in a big arena. LSU's going to go play Houston next year in Toyota Center over in Houston. That, he believes, prepares his teams for the NCAA tournament, playing in big arenas, NBA arenas. He likes to do that to get the feel for the NCAA tournament where you play in bigger venues. And then you're going to play in a tournament every single year, and more often than not, he's going to pick one that he feels like is going to be a resume boost. So maybe he greases the skids with the folks at the Acrisure Series to make sure in that first round he gets St. Louis, because St. Louis is going to win a lot of games. Maybe he makes sure he's on the side that gets the USC Stanford winner or loser, or whatever the case may be. But it's all going to be done meticulously. So I don't know what this bracket's going to look like in time, but I do think that there is reason to think this is a reasonable step. Will Wade is not at the point in this tenure at LSU where he can pick up the phone and get big games. Now, clearly, he and Kelvin Sampson have a good relationship. They played previously when Will Wade was here in Houston. So here. So you're going to see that game, and that's a huge game for LSU. Houston, I believe, has won more games than anyone in the Power 5 basketball leagues the last 4 years. They've been a 1 seed 3 the last 4 years, a 2 seed in the other. They're a juggernaut as far as regular season basketball goes, and so that's a huge game for LSU for sure. But not in the deal where they're going to be the first phone call for a lot of these big tournaments. So they get this Palm Springs deal. There's a couple of really solid programs in there, and hopefully LSU can build its resume in that way. They got work to do from a roster perspective before we as fans worry too much about the schedule. But you look at what we know about this schedule, it does include Houston in Houston, as well as this Palm Springs trip out to a great part of the country at that time of year, which will probably be late November or early December. So if you want to go see the basketball team play in a gorgeous locale in a chilly time, go see them in Palm Springs in the 2026 Acrisure Series over there on the West Coast. South Carolina, Southern Cal, Arizona State, Utah State, Grand Canyon, St. Louis, Stanford, and Colorado will round out the top 2 pods that LSU will be included in come November or December of this year. All right, that's it for hour number 1 here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Started things today talking about Alvin Kamara reporting to Saints OTAs. He is currently meeting with the media, said he was in Miami yesterday, decided last minute to get on a 10 p.m. flight and fly to New Orleans. I've actually taken Miami to New Orleans flight. It's real quick, nothing to it, right up over the Gulf, and you're there in an hour and 45 minutes. So he decided to do that, and he's here. And I thought that was weird, and I gave my thoughts on it. I think that there's a sense that he's putting a little pressure on the organization that is not willing to bow down to that. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Also talked a little Clemson football. The 2026 ACC football preview on ESPN.com does not paint Clemson in a super positive light. What does that mean for LSU? I spoke about that. It was What If Wednesday. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand. Hunt Palmer Show. Hunt on LSU for your Clemson talk there. Hunt on Saints for the Kamara talk. Those are our 2 YouTube channels. Appreciate y'all for subscribing to those. It means a ton to us. In hour number 2, Nick Saban was on Capitol Hill. What do you have to say? Do I agree? We'll talk about it. Baseball transfer portal in 35 minutes. We'll pause for Sports Center national headlines. When we come back, Drake London signed a big deal. What does that mean for Chris Olave? I've got my thoughts on it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services, they call it foresight. It's not over planning, it's foresight. That hurricane is going to come. Hopefully not this year, hopefully not next year. I'd love it if it never showed up, but we know in this part of the world there are risks there. Give yourself the peace of mind with that Generac home standby generator that you don't have to stress when a storm could be forming in the Keys, when it could be forming in the Gulf. You know that if you ride out the storm, you're going to have power. You know that if you do evacuate, you'll come back to a house with power. A local team from Boudreaux's Electrical will install that Generac home standby generator. They will locally monitor that generator. If there's a mechanical issue, a local team will come with the fix. That's the beauty of doing business with local people. You can buy from the big box store, but probably go with local for that customer service. Boudreaux's Electrical offers that. Boudreaux'sElectrical.com.